What is up, people? Welcome in to the Fantasy Football Smackdown. It's NFL Draft Day Eve, and we're talking NFL Draft on today's show, if you can believe that here. I'm your host, Kyle August. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at KyleMonth8. And on today's show, I saved the best for last. I figured, who can I bring on to really to just put a bow on this month of April?
Yeah.
As the draft is one day away. Round one is tomorrow as it records if you're watching us live. Tonight if you're listening on the podcast. I got G from the Aussie guys. How's it going, G?
Oh, good, mate. How many phone calls do you have to make until you got to my number to talk about?
Not going to lie. I had 3 cancellations, and then I was like, shit.
That's okay.
Who is still available?
I'm on one hand. That's what you're telling me. I'm fingers on one hand. That's good.
You're still in the top 5. That's pretty. I feel like that's a win.
That's good. I'm happy with it. Just outside the medals at number 4.
Yeah.
But I can deal with that.
There you go. And I appreciate you taking a break from a long day of work in the middle of your day. You know, this whole time zone thing really screws with us. I think if we were in the same time zone, man, there would be no stopping us, because I'd feel like we'd be doing a podcast like every other week at least.
Oh, mate,
we appreciate jumping
AJ would be gone. It'd be you and me. You know, you burnt Seth, so we don't have to worry about stepping on any toes there. And yeah, AJ, it's just, mate, basically, if I got Kyle host here, AJ, and you put it on the scales, and it's sort of like, yeah, mate, like AJ's just dropping it. No, it should be the other way, shouldn't it?
Just trading up, man. It's all good. So
it's good to be on. Excited. Draft tomorrow, taking the day off. The boss actually just thinks I'm getting coffees for him at the moment, so he's going to wonder why it's going to take me an hour and a half to go and get coffees.
Yeah.
By the time I get back, it's busy.
Hey, man. Yeah, I'm lucky enough. I made sure that my wedding day, middle of the summer, right? Out of the football realm, it's a slow time of the year that you had to get married in July, right? But unfortunately, as much as I could plan that, I could not plan my wife's own birth. And her birthday is the 28th of April. So sometimes it falls on the first round of the NFL draft, and that happens again this year. So I'll be navigating the draft via my phone.
She's understanding. She understands you're not going to be running a birthday with her.
I know how to pick my battles, and trying to watch the NFL draft on her birthday is not one I'm going to fight with. So
really?
Yeah, I'll definitely get to check it out for a bit, but I won't be like in the last few years, especially with like, with Zoom and stuff. Yeah. We were doing like draft calls, just hanging out, having some beer, just just kind of chit chatting on a call with people across leagues and stuff, but not this year. And unfortunately, this isn't the first time this happened, because the year that the Cowboys had whatever pick and took Zeke, that was also another year that was on her birthday. So
what was that? Was it 4?
That to be.
I'm having a guess. Were you picking like 4th, 3rd, 4th?
I don't even remember. I try to block it out that they took a running back that high, as much as I like.
Oh man, come on, seriously, you can complain. Like, I understand you complain about taking a running back but you took a running back like that gave you what he did. Not so much now, but in those first, especially his rookie season with Dak, were you really complaining about it at the time?
There's been much worse picks, including by my own team. So 4th overall, I just double checked. So fact checkers, don't worry, I got it covered. So I had two listener questions that came in specifically for you before we get started. So
if one is campy,
no, this is not from campy. Don't worry. The first one is I'm supposed to ask. This is the exact quote. Ask the Aussie guy what his favorite Mad Max movie is. Do you have a favorite? I did not prep you for this.
Yeah, look, the Fury Road one was really good. Mm-hmm. The latest one, but if you're an Australian, that's more an American-based Mad Max, to be honest. The second one, I think you called it the Road Warrior or something like that. Was it? It had a different name when it came out in America. It was the second one where he found himself in the first one's basically giving you the outline of his story, just his life and how he became who he is. And that was actually filmed about an hour away from where I live. It maybe even less now with new freeways. Actually, it's probably 2 hours now with all the roadworks. But yeah, so that wasn't filmed that far away from where I live. The very first one, but the second one, and that's the one with the kid with the the metal boomerang. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it. I'm gonna have to check it out.
That was probably the best one. All
right,
without a doubt.
Good. So that, and believe it or not, these two
Fury Road was good. Like it was good. I enjoyed it.
Awesome. So I'm glad I'm getting these out of the way too, because not out of the way, but this guy's been asking this for me to present you these questions for like a year, and I keep forgetting every time. So the second question is, and don't hate me for this because I have no idea what the hell this even is. He said, and ask him if he thinks Quigley Down Under is a good movie.
Did they have Tom Selleck in it?
Yeah, I've never seen. I just googled it. And
I think if you put anything with Down Under in it, it's shit. Like
yes,
like Men at Work.
Men at Work. Yes,
which was my intro song for a while.
I know. I have to get Seth back on the show and get all the old like favorite guests of the fellas, because you guys all had your intro songs. Yep. But yours, unfortunately for you, you did not get any say in selecting that song because it was Men at Work.
No, I did ask for it to be taken down a few times, but
that request was not granted. That's for sure.
It's not granted. But it's quite funny. Like I've never seen the movie, but I know that Tom Selleck was in it. I don't know who else was in it, but I do. There was a period of time that there were a lot of American movies made here, like in our studios and stuff, because of the currency, the dollar currency, the gap. It was far cheaper to make it under our dollar using US dollars and with the exchange rate. Mm-hmm. So I'd be watching these American movies going, I'd go, fuck, there's a lot of gum trees in America.
That's awesome.
Stuff like that. Or you'd be showing like they're trying to make, I think very much like the Matrix movies, they try to make it out like you're in the States, but it's, I think it was Sydney. Like that's Sydney, dude. Like, why are you trying to make it out like, you know what I mean? It's like if you watch a movie and they tell you this is where it is. You know it's not there.
No. No, definitely not.
Yeah, we're telling you, we're putting it up there. Is that where it is? No, it's not. That's why we're telling you, because we're putting it in, the old noggin. That's where it's from. But there we go. So we go to Quigley and the second Mad Max, but the first one's very good too. So if you haven't seen the first one, the young Mel Gibson, definitely go and see got to see the first one. You do have to. It's probably 60-40.
Gotcha.
With those two. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I got a lot of movie catching up. I got my buddy. I have like a whole list of stuff he always gives me, and he loves Mad Max, so he's like, you got to check these out. So I gotta do that. But it was funny, and we'll move to some football after this. But you reference like wherever it says like this is where the movie is, like that. That's not where it is. No. I don't live there now. I used to, but I used to live in Aurora, Illinois. Which, if you've ever seen the movie Wayne's World, that's where Wayne is from. He's like, I live in Aurora, Illinois. Well, like none of that movie was filmed in Aurora, Illinois. Why the hell does it? Why would you want the movie to be based there? Like,
why do you even bring it up? This is where, like, who cares?
I don't know, but
it was bloody somewhere in LA, and that's where the movie's. Who gives a shit? I don't think anybody cared. Was that a big part of the?
No, it had barely like nothing to really do with the movie. But every time, like when I tell people like, "Oh, where are you from?" Like, "Oh, I'm from Aurora." They're like, "Oh, Wayne's World." And I'm like, "Yeah, I guess." So exactly. At least I just have one little town and one movie. You got a whole country of great films to be linked to. So congrats. So
I still get excited when I hear my name in a movie. Like Greg's not a very common name. It's not one. I don't think anybody's naming their kid these days Greg.
No,
not with, especially not in the NFL.
No, that's a good point. I can't think of too many Gregs in the NFL to be honest. But my mind went to Greg Jennings, who's been out of the league for like 10 years.
Is the defensive end Greg?
Randy Gregory. I mean,
Randy Gregory. I'm thinking of. Well, there you go. But yeah, so every time I hear a name in something, it sounds quite weird.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah,
I didn't think of that.
It's always usually some overweight, geeky looking dude. Thinking, okay,
lucky
not
you.
all Greeks look like that. I hope.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, let's talk some football, man. We're 10 minutes into this, so we might as well. We might as well talk some football. We're getting ready for the draft here. You took a look at some numbers, so I'm going to kind of kick it to you here to preface what we're doing here. But you broke down some numbers from last year and some finishing positions. So what kind of data were you looking at here, and what were some takeaways?
Yeah, well, look, I don't know what you gave me some questions, and I thought I didn't really like the questions that you asked me to talk about. So I thought I'm going to actually do some research for your own show.
Yes.
You know, I want to be the research for your show as the guest. But
appreciate that.
I was just looking at like where players were drafted and where they finished up. Like this is from the fantasy point of view. So using who did I use? I can't remember whose numbers I used. Fantasy. Geez, I can't even remember whose.
Oh man, you got to have your source. You don't need people coming after you.
Fantasy Pros. Sorry, Fantasy Pros.
All right.
So there we go. Thank you, Fantasy Pros. So so I just had a look, and did I go through everybody? No, but I did do the top 48 running backs. I think about top 50 wide receivers and the top 18 quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not the top 18 because there's a few guys. I put the rookies in there from last year just to see where they ended up fantasy-wise in their first season. So for starters, what we found out was in the top 18, in the 18 quarterbacks I looked at, 11 of them were first-round picks.
Wow.
3 were from the second round. 1 was from the third. 2 was from the fourth. We had no fifth-round quarterbacks, whether or not they were only taken in the fifth round in any of those years. It probably would have been. Mm-hmm. 1 from the sixth.
I wonder who that was.
I wonder who that was. And none from the seventh. So pretty much, if you're not getting one in the first, based on last year's fantasy, So I was going to say to you, who give me, okay, outside of Brady. So we know that the number 6 was the one person was Tom Brady, obviously. Mm-hmm. Who was the lowest finishing QB in the first round? From taking him in the first round. Let's take out Trey Lance.
Okay.
He didn't even play.
So who was the lowest finishing quarterback in 2021 that was drafted in the first round?
Yeah, that wasn't a rookie from last year.
Ooh, I'm gonna go with Baker Mayfield.
Oh well, Baker didn't even make.
Oh, he didn't even make the top 18.
He was the 25th.
So it's got to be
pretty good. That's a good pick. But from the 18 that I did, I should probably go on to Baker. But I figured, mate, he's not even on a team now. Did we worry?
My other guess, he's not. He's still on the Browns technically. My other guess was going to be technically. My other guess.
They're gonna go through camp and pick the best quarterback.
Yeah, there's a true competition. G. My other guess was gonna be Goff. Jared Goff.
Oh, mate, he's not. Where's
he's not on the list either.
No,
I should. So I gotta go. Not the worst.
I look from the ones that I did. Well, they're 2 really good picks, but we're sort of talking about decent quarterbacks.
Okay.
Here at the moment.
All right.
Unless you want to draft Jared Goff in the first round of a startup.
Heyo. You know who you are.
You know who you are. Lamar Jackson.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. I guess he missed a handful of games in there too. So
he missed a handful of games. So gotcha. And the lowest, probably the highest of the guys that were taken, that would have been 4th round. There was 2 of them.
Dak Prescott and Kirk Cousins, baby.
Yeah. Yeah, Dak Prescott was 7 and Kirk Cousins was 4th. So basically, if you're going to be in a fantasy, unless you're really good at picking quarterbacks, they just stick with who they take in the first round, even in your dynasty startups, because more of them hit than don't. Well, it's 50%, but judging by this at the moment, the guys that are still in the league, mate, 11 to 3 in the second,
Yeah, I think that's the good thing to keep in mind with that, especially with this class, for God's sakes. Like, geez, these quarterbacks are going to be rough, and we'll see tomorrow night or tonight if you're listening to this Thursday morning where these guys end up. That draft capital, I think, is going to make a difference. That'll tell us what the NFL thinks of these guys. But when you're in your rookie drafts, you think like a year ago, like Davis Mills was probably a little different. You could take some context clues with him. Houston didn't have earlier picks. There's obviously a little path to playing time there, but like, what is he long term? But when you look at think of like the Kellen Monds of the world that we spent time like, oh, I gotta let's take this guy late. It's a flyer. You need quarterback, super flex. But really, you just said it. Like last year, there was only 4 or 5 guys that were taken out of the first 2 rounds that even were, top, startable quarterbacks, really. So
with 3.
Yeah.
3 after round 2.
Yeah. So what are you gonna? You got to think of that with some of these dart throws. I think I do. I know we are not going to talk about the tight ends because we have the numbers for the other 2 positions, but I'm reminding myself that this year more than ever, because every year it always seems like in that late 3rd or 4th, I'm always just like, well, this tight end was drafted in round 3. Like,
I've got tight end numbers here.
Oh, you got all of them, man.
Yeah. I've got all the positions.
All right.
Yeah, for sure. But I did have a phone call yesterday with your boss.
Yes. The Godfather himself.
The Godfather himself, yes.
Yes.
The CEO of the DWZ.
Yes.
I think he's CEO, chairman.
He's the whole damn board of directors there. So.
Yeah, he's the whole board of directors. And we had a discussion yesterday. We were talking, obviously, when you start talking about the draft, you start talking about your own team and what you want to do with that. And I've seen with the Falcons, I think we've been linked to every offensive position besides tight end, quarterback, wide receiver, running back. And I said, mate, I don't want a receiver in the first round where he thinks the Falcons should take a receiver. I said, why? I don't understand. We're in a rebuilding stage now. It's done. It's finished. Matt Ryan's gone, which that's not that it's great, but there comes a point where you just got to move on. It's time, and we're going to have a bridge guy somewhere until you find the guy. And he was like, "Well, if you get a quarterback next season in the draft, he's got to be able to throw to somebody." I'm thinking, mate, I'd rather take another offensive lineman or a really good defensive player in the first round than take a wide receiver, because the wide receiver ain't going to be helping him off the ground when he's got his ass just absolutely pancaked by some defensive player. Mm-hmm. How does that help him at all?
Right.
And then I got on a whole discussion about next year's quarterbacks. This is not a Falcons pod, but mate, we have to suck big time next year. We have to be, from a Falcons point of view, and anybody who's listening is probably not a Falcons fan, because there's not many of us out there really, or none that really want to put their hand up and own, since 28-3. But if we don't really suck and we're not 1 or 2, if we end up winning enough games like we did this year and we end up 8th, or we probably won't be that good this year, so we're 6th, there's too many teams next year, one that will need a quarterback or be looking at another quarterback. And say, for example, even Miami, who could be better, but look at the draft capital that they've got next year, the picks in the first round.
Yeah.
They could be middle of the road and be a later draft pick and just fly straight past the Falcons with using draft picks to go and get what's a much better class of quarterbacks coming in. I said, mate, we got to be the worst team in the league or the second worst league in the team to guarantee getting, one of these 2 at the moment, and there'll probably be more by the end of next season. QBs.
When you look
There's no use winning 6 games and being picked 5 with absolutely. What do we give away? We'll give you our first pick, and we'll give away our first 2 ones for the next 2 years. Great. Where Miami go, well, we don't have to give away our 20, any more pick. We already have them to give away. We don't have to sell our future as well. So, and
you look at a team like Philly as an example, like they're not going to finish low enough for their own pick to be in that range, but they've stockpiled all this draft capital that they're gonna, if Hurts it doesn't take a big step, like that's another team. Like there's going to be multiple teams all gunning for these 2023 QBs in the NFL draft. So
there's teams that need them this year and just going to ride, and there's going to be teams next year that have starting QBs like your Jalen Hurts and Tua and that, and they might just in the end of the year just add those two teams to the pool of teams that need quarterbacks next year. To the ones that we know this year will just roll with whoever they've got. You know.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just there's going to be a lot of teams looking for quarterbacks. And when we spoke how we got on the whole thing, just about the whole quarterbacks, it's just like I don't want a quarterback. Don't want to run. Definitely don't want a running back because by the time we get good, he won't be on the team anymore.
Yep.
And do we need a wide receiver? No, I reckon we go and pick a wide receiver in the second round. As a Falcons fan, I'd rather take, Cross it. The best lineman, or take the best corner and stick him alongside AJ Terrell and go bang, there we go, mate, shut down both sides of the field. Let's because our defenses suck for a long time. So that's my Falcons rant. There we go.
Well, it's not that, I can tell you for one thing, that isn't what fantasy owners want. We see opportunity there where even within a mediocre offense, there's just nobody. If a rookie comes in as a receiver, running back in that offense, there's production to be had because the guys ahead of them are not intriguing. So maybe those are second round players. That could be fine as well. So I know that your Falcons are definitely a spot I've kind of circled as like, all right, if they land a wide receiver in round 2 or running back in round 2, or they have 2 second round picks, I believe. So like if they add some players there, that's going to be interesting for as far as like instant impact goes for fantasy owners. So.
But that's the whole thing, isn't it? Is weighing up, not just everybody, is the fantasy part of it and the reality part of football. Like for the draft, for me, it's the reality side of football.
Yeah.
Than it is about I'll worry about the fantasy stuff after the draft done. But right now, for your own team, I don't give a shit about the fantasy. I just want my team to be good.
Yes, I hear you. I'm definitely going through that same thing with the Cowboys. Like, it would be great to add a receiver in that first round, but in reality, there's bigger needs for that team. So we'll see how it goes. It tugs, both.
I've got a guy down here in the second round for you if he falls to you.
I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, no, first round actually.
So all right. Well,
we'll see
there you go. That's what they call it in the biz, a tease. So you got to keep hanging out. G's going to drop some knowledge on you, but I don't want to waste all the homework that you put in here to show me up on the show with all your research. So you want to take a look at running backs? What the numbers you saw from last year on that?
Okay, now, so the running backs, before we start, I went back and had a look at the running backs had been drafted in the first round since 1980. So we'll put him in 10-year slots, okay? The amount of running backs taken between 1980, 1989, 90, 99, and so forth. So this is how the running back has really dropped away as a known commodity, really. They've become like, I used the term, they've become like disposable diapers. Haven't they? You use it, once it's been used, you turf it and you get another new one.
Yeah.
That's how it is. And I was speaking to a young guy in our gym yesterday who was looking at coming to the States. He'd spoken to a few schools. He's a runner. He's a big guy. Big dude. Spoken to a few of the top schools in the States to get a education. You get a scholarship. Yeah. And then the whole COVID thing hit. So unfortunately for him, it all went. So he plays. We got a few average teams here, obviously, and he plays in that. And we're just talking about it yesterday. And it's just you use them up, and you don't want to be a running back.
No,
because when you're up for your second contract, it's just like, no, we'll find somebody else in the draft or whatnot. For the most part, if you took it on averages, but I think they really need to. Maybe they have to look at in the draft. Do they change it for how long you have a running back? It can't be the same as everybody else. Maybe it's going to be a tier level of how long you have these guys for before you have to make a decision whether you want to keep them or they can move on while they're still young enough and they haven't been beaten to the pulp for what they do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't have a fifth-year option on a running back. I don't believe it's fair. Do you say, okay, you have them for 2 years and then you take a third year? Otherwise, you got to pay them or let them go somewhere else so they can get paid.
Yeah. The rookie contract, and Mike jumped in here and said, he said, you're not supposed to reuse those diapers. So the NFL teams definitely don't think so. But yeah, I think you and I were talking about this, like in a conversation, like same thing. Like, yeah, I think for running backs, they should almost have like their own like rules, like these rookie contracts really do a disservice to that position because you literally get used up for 4 years, 5 years. If if you're good and you were in the first round and they picked up your option, but you don't really get paid. And then by the time you hit that, even if you came in young, let's say your 4-year rookie contract, you came in at 21 years old, you're already 25, 26, and someone's not giving you, you'll be lucky if you get $5 million a year over, a year or two more, and then you're done. It's over.
Look, now we're talking about Kamara and all these guys in the mix, and they're only 26 now. People saying, just move on and get somebody. You're done.
Soiled diaper. That's
soiled diaper. Okay, so what I looked at, between 80 and 89, 51 running backs went in the first round. Between 1999, 34. So here we go.
Wisen up already.
2000 to 2009, 27. So we're almost within the space of 3 years. We're 3 short of being half of what it was in the previous 2 decades. 2010 to 2019, 16.
Oh boy.
And then it's only been the last 2020 to 2022 has been 6, and this year's probably going to be 0.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm surprised that he's even that 6 even seems like
it seems high.
Yeah, it does. But this year it will more than likely be 0. You never know. We might get a Rashad Penny type situation again. Surprise, surprise. But man, that's the thing with when you calibrate this stuff. I would say like one of the things that I've really tried to integrate in my own rookie evaluation is truly draft capital, right? Like if I think a guy is great, or everyone thinks he's great, but he was taken in the 4th round, that's got to mean something, right? That's got to be a hit towards him, right? But for running backs, it's like you got to calibrate it a little bit more. Like if a running back's taken in round 2, that's good draft capital for a running back. If he's taken in round 4 for a receiver, that might be too late. For me, like if it's it's more neutral than it would be for other positions. So round 2, round 3 is great draft capital for running back. Round 1 is like I think you demonstrated there, almost becoming unheard of for the most part, unless you get these blue chip guys. And then we've even seen them, some of our best running backs still leak into round 2 because the position just is not valued. So
without doubt. So what down here we had 11 taken in the 11 of the running backs in the top 48. I looked at because when I printed them out, my piece of paper on the second page stopped at 48. So, and 48 is probably going too far.
A peek behind the scientific curtain there. But my paper cut off. So 48.
Cut off, but that was it. So, that's what it is. So, actually, it was 51, but 3 guys are no longer in the system this year. So that's gotcha. Freeman, Sony, Michelle, and Devontae Booker. So they're free agents. So I didn't include them. So we had 11 in the top 48 were first round picks. We had 9 in the second. Third round picks was 10. So there we go. That's outside the first. The third round seems to be a good place to look at tight end if in fantasy wise. 8 of them were picked in the 4th round. 2 of them were picked in the 5th. 2 in the 6th. 1 in the 7th, and we had 5 undrafted free agents.
There you go.
So tell me the highest undrafted free agent who scored the highest in last year's fantasy on Fantasy Pros.
Oh man.
I take it this would probably. I should have actually said if this was PP. I think it was PPR just because of how high he is. So
undrafted free agent,
the highest.
Oh man, I wish I knew Marvin Andressen. What like, is AFC or NFC? Just give me that.
No, I'm not going to give you anything.
You're not going to give me that? Oh, dude.
Someone we know was really disappointed in the quarterback that they took 2 years ago, but now he's pretty happy.
Oh, now I don't. Now it threw me off even more. When I hear undrafted free agent running back, I'm like, James Robinson. The end. Like, is it James Robinson?
No, Austin Eckler.
Oh, dang it! I was gonna say that. Oh, I just thought for sure that Eckler was drafted. I was like, no way he went undrafted, right? Shoot, I would have looked so smart if I would have just said it. It was on the tip of my tongue. If you would have given me freaking AFC, I would have been like, good enough.
Yeah.
Like, damn it.
Okay, and so who's the lowest in the top 50 guys? Now, take Mark Ingram doesn't include because of his age. We'll leave him out. So we'll stick to guys that have been in the league for a couple of years. So they're still young and relatively, haven't been beaten up that much. Who was the lowest that was taken at number 1
in the first round?
And he was number 46. Running back 46.
And it's not Sony Michel. It's not Sony Michel because you took him out.
Yeah, I took him out because he's now a free agent.
Okay. Oh man, I'm gonna go. I don't want to drag this. Let's see. We'll go with. Dang it. Let's go with. Man, a Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Bingo.
Yes.
Bingo.
There we go. Shoot. If I would have just had Eckler, would have been just banging this home. Shoot. Nice. All right. CEH, baby. Hell yeah. I mean, that's not exciting because I own him in too many leagues, but let's hope for some bounce back there.
Basically, is what you're looking at, that you probably want to pick up your running backs no later than the guys that are drafted in no later than round 4. Preferably probably round 3. 2 to 3 seems to be pretty good. 9 and 10, they make up 19 of the guys. So yeah.
Well, and we'll obviously I don't jump the gun. We'll get to these other positions too, but I think there's at least some numbers there. While not, the hit rate's obviously going to be super, super low. At least there are some guys that are still relevant, and we don't know where these guys are necessarily, but like there are some undrafted guys still. So I think if you're going to take some dart throws, taking it on this position for me is usually a route that I go, just because there's usually, even though teams only are generally using 1 or 2, the path to get there, injuries in front of them. So you see these guys get at least opportunities to be startable at some point. So
that'd be darky.
Good deal. Oh, you're all good. Campy finally showed up. He on my post. He said, "So glad you could get Grandpa to finish his lunchtime nap early to join you." So he must be talking about you.
He must have woken up his hamster, got it running on the treadmill because he's in the boondocks out there where he lives, mate.
Well,
there's electricity out there.
He's obviously not trying to butter you up for a trade in Revolution League or anything. This guy is just taking shots here. So.
But it's talking about the running backs in this class. We might as well talk about them while we're here on the running back subject. But outside of the top 2, which my top 2 are the same as everybody else, Bruce Hall and Walker. I'd probably say they are probably maybe not so much reliant on where they fall because of the talented guys in their own right. Mate, everybody else is, landing spot dependent. Yeah. Really landing spot dependent.
It definitely feels like that. Whenever I see these things tiered out, it's like if everyone could put an empty tier in between, like those 2 and the rest of the crop, it feels like that's what's going on here. Like there's not much debate. I haven't really seen too many people add a third running back to that group. It really is at those 2. And as we're mapping this out, we our first round, within a few days from now, everyone's going to be putting their rankings together, jumping into rookie drafts and everything. I mean, we shall not forget the years of Keyshawn Vaughn and Sermon from a year ago. These guys that land, you think are, no, they weren't really getting a lot of hype. They drafted to a place you think there's opportunity, and then they start shoving their way into the first round of our rookie drafts. And, so landing spot definitely makes a difference, but I think we need to make sure that we're not getting too ahead of ourselves, depending on what we see this upcoming weekend. Because, man, I think those traps are those can ruin your team. I know I have a team. I took Sermon last year at the 112 1 QB league, was thrilled, thought I was, living large, had all these offers for him. I'm like, no, I can't go up such a prime piece such as Trey Sermon. And now I'm sitting there. I have my running backs are crap, and I'm just like, man, I can't trade this guy for a bag of beans right now. So it's you got to be careful, but it's going to be interesting.
Look, that's going to happen this year too, Kyle.
Oh, it will.
Because the class is not even like from every position, like the draft itself, you listen to experts, and a lot of them say like there's some guys that there's only 14 guys in the first round in this whole draft they give a first draft grade to.
Yeah.
Yep. Where other years it's been like 25. Someone was saying it's like they had 24 last year. Now it's only 14 or whatever. So you start to think, well, how many of those are running backs? Well, 0.
Yeah. Yep.
You know what I mean? How many are wide receivers? Maybe none as well. Because there is, and everybody's gone over there is no Jamar Chase. To me, there's no Waddle. And you look at the quarterbacks and people are going, well, if David Mills came out this year, he'd be the number 1 quarterback on the list. But this is what's going to happen is in our draft is people are still going to take it.
Yeah.
People are still going to draft Malik Willis in the first round of your dynasty rookie drafts or, people are still going to be taking this year's Trey Sermon in the first round because people are going to go, well, I'd rather take a punt on a running back and get him worked than taking a punt on a wide receiver. I'm a little bit different. I'd rather take a punt on the wide receiver, because I look at them a lot more.
It's that position lends itself to that though, because like you said, you want to take a shot. They're so hard to come by. And if you get lucky, you hit on one, if that's Michael Carter instead of Trey Sermon getting hyped, then, people aren't so mad, but like it's just because it really bombed and it happens. So
it's going to happen this year as well. And we're going to be talking about the same thing next year.
Yeah. Can't wait. I love looking back at rookie drafts, like 4 months or even 2 months into the season, like, holy crap, what were we thinking?
Like in one draft in a league that I won this year, I had the 8th pick from last year and Chase fell to me at 8.
Heck yeah.
That's like, what the, like was the class really that good last year compared to like this year?
Yeah.
He'd probably be.
Oh, he's like the 101 in startups almost right now. Like, contention, top 3 pretty much overall, like consensus outside of non-superflex. Like, pretty crazy how much that's changed in a year when he was outside the top 3 ADP. Rookie drafts last year. So
one of your questions before we move on from running backs was it like landings, like my favorite landing spots for guys?
So so some of the questions I threw your way that you already poo-pooed on was every time you're always like, I get you on. You're like, hey, you available? Yeah, for sure. Let's do the show. You got any notes? Yeah, here's the things I want to cover. All right, I hate those ideas. Let's do this. I'm like, damn, AJ must put up with a lot of crap over there. But one of the questions was the perfect landing spot player team that you would like to see happen this weekend. It could be, and it could be NFL perspective, fantasy perspective. I know you watch a ton of these guys. I, on the other hand, just cheat off everybody else's paper. It's like I'm back in school. So, I appreciate the insight from a football perspective or fantasy perspective. So did you have a guy that, as we're talking running backs here, that came to mind?
Yeah, look, from a fantasy point of view, it won't happen. So what I looked at offensive lines, like who's got a good offensive line that could do with a running back, and they could Brees Hall to the Washington, what do they call these days?
Commanders, I guess. Yeah.
Monuments or Commanders or whatever they're called. Like you look at their offense, they are ranked number 5 by Pro Football Focus best offensive line. They lost a few guys during the year, and guys that worked in really well, but they were more ended up grading higher as pass defenders and run defenders. But if they get the core together, and mate, I don't care that Antonio Gibson's there. I don't even think Washington know what to do with Antonio Gibson, to be honest, because when he came out, I remember AJ was on the clock and he goes, "What do you think of Antonio Gibson?" He goes, "What do you think?" I said, "Mate, I don't know what he is." Mm-hmm. Like I saw him as a wide receiver and I said, "Mate, he's got no burst." And then I saw him as a running back and I say, he still doesn't. He's like this guy that's in between that doesn't know. He's like a transgender. I don't know what I'm going to, am I a man? I shouldn't say that these days.
There you
go. Politically incorrect, but you know what I mean. But it's like I don't know what he was, and I still. And then they took him, and everybody loved him. But I don't even think Washington know how to use him or what he is. He's not a running back. He's not a wide receiver. I think that'd be like Breece Hall would come in, and within one game, you'd work out that Breece Hall's the new running back in what and behind that line. Mm-hmm. Fantastic. I'd like to see that. I think that could be really good but I look at the draft and that's not going to happen. They're not picking in the spot where they're going to get him. Mm-hmm. So the reality would be, and I did have my notes here, where would be what I'd like to see from a reality point of view is either Walker or Breece Hall ending up in Buffalo. Because I really like Buffalo football team, and I'd really like to see them win and go all the way, and for everything for that city and that they've been through. Like, what was it with Kelly? Was how many did they lose in a row?
Oh, four in a row, I think.
Yeah, whatever it was. Just I'd like to. He's the final piece in the offense. One of those two is just because we know that who they have there at the moment is just they aren't the piece that they need. Now, from a fantasy point of view, that wouldn't be great because we know that when it gets inside 5, there's one person running the football, and that's the biggest dude behind the offensive line.
Yeah,
and that's Josh Allen. But I think outside of that, Josh Allen can't keep doing what he's doing and keep. Eventually we saw with Cam Newton, everybody said, "Oh, he's a big guy, he'll be fine," but in the end, he wasn't.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I think, if you get someone like that there, from a football point of view, that's where I'd like to see one of those two guys end up.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think you mentioned like if it happened, if the chips fell that way and Hall went to like Washington as an example, like that's gonna happen. With we saw these guys. Everyone thinks of all the perfect landing spots, but we're gonna see scenarios where guys go where you don't think it's ideal, right? And sometimes it ends up still being a great situation. But we're going to see players that are going to get their fantasy value zapped, whether it be rookies not having the instant impact that you might have hoped for, projected, and veterans that you thought, hey, they have a clear path. And then, I think, I forget who it was. But I saw a mock draft today and they had Tennessee taking a receiver in round 1. I don't remember who the receiver was, but regardless, right? Like that's a low passing volume offense. You have AJ Brown. They just got Robert Woods. If your hope is that those two guys can be fantasy relevant, you sure as hell don't want them going receiver in round 1. And if you're high on a receiver, you don't necessarily want him going there. A la Bateman last year as an example. Like he was a first round pick, but went to an offense that isn't really chucking the ball, 700 times. Yeah. So like it's gonna happen. These things are gonna trickle down, but you never know. Too. I think we've seen over the years the guys that end up in what appear to be less than ideal spots. But if you just follow the talent, I think that'll, I think you look back at like AJ Brown, we'll go back to Tennessee. When he was drafted by Tennessee, people were kind of like, I don't really like that landing spot. Well, eventually he showed up because he's a monster, right? And I think you're going to see the same thing with Elijah Moore. We saw flashes of that despite him being on the Jets. So I think you got to follow the talent a little bit too.
Yeah, I think in one mock I saw them taking Traylon Burks. They had him placed at Tennessee. Like, do you want to me, Traylon Burks is a slower version, even though he plays quick, of AJ Brown. They're the same guy, big, physical, run after the catch sort of guys. Mm. Do you want two of the same on you? Right. Maybe they do, but
we create these perfect scenarios where it's like all these complementary pieces that fit real nice and there's enough to go around and there's not too many mouths. and it's gonna happen. Like we're gonna see this, because the NFL teams don't give a crap about that. They want talent. So
yes,
we'll see. But
okay.
let's keep this thing moving. Let's go receivers.
Yeah, wide receivers. So we're at the wide receivers. Who have we got? So I did the top. Was the top 50? Okay.
Okay,
so
good. You're paid. The printer let that happen, huh?
Printer went to 51, mate. Printer went to 51.
Man, bonus.
I know, but who did I scrub out? Cole Beasley.
Oh, damn. The Beasles.
Well, he's not vaccinated. These are all vaccinated
He's
players.
not vaccinated. We crossed them off.
Okay, so we had 14 guys in the top 50 that went in the first round. 14 from the second round, drafted in the second. We had 6 that were drafted in the third, 1 drafted in the fourth, 6 drafted in the fifth, 2 drafted in the second, no one drafted in the seventh made the top 50, and we had 7 who were undrafted free agents.
7 undrafted.
7. Okay. So we'll go, okay, who's 7? Who was the highest undrafted free agent in the top 50 from last season?
Oh, man. Who was the highest undrafted free agent?
Could be his last season.
What's up?
Could be his last season.
Last season.
It could be. It could be.
Like last year was his last season or this year?
No, this could be his last season. He's far closer to the end, like far closer to the end than the beginning.
Shoot.
In the middle.
Adam Thielen?
You're on fire, dude.
Let's go.
Good work.
Let's go. Man. All right. Completely blind. Just didn't even know I was going to have to do this.
Okay. Now, I was going to say the 2 lowest guys here that were taken in the first round would be, but injuries, Hopkins and AJ Green's just old.
Oh, okay? Yeah.
Okay, so take those 2 guys out. The guy that finished 35th that was taken in the first round, so he's the lowest first rounder outside of those 2 guys. First round draftee.
I'm going to go, and you didn't exclude anybody else, so even like young rookies are in here?
No, rookies are in here.
Devonta Smith?
No.
Oh, damn.
No, Brandon Ayuk.
Brandon Ayuk. All right. Yeah. Dang.
35.
All right. Yeah, obviously N'Keal Harry didn't make the cut on the top 50 or whatever. So
no. So who was the highest? No, hold on. Let me have a look.
I know who the 4th round wide receiver was that was in there.
We had 3 guys that were taken in the 5th round of drafts in the top 10.
In the top 10. So they had to be 2 of them. So they had to be Tyreek Hill.
Yes, but that was Carrick and
and it was you missed too many games probably. Antonio Brown.
No.
Damn. What? Shoot. I was gonna say the name that keeps going in my mind is Keenan Allen, but I don't know what round he was picked. No.
3rd.
Oh shoot! All right. Too good. 5th round pick. Yeah, I can't.
Stefan Diggs.
Diggs. Okay. Oh yeah. Shoot. Yep.
Diggs. And the other one was a fast rise. Hunter Renfrow.
Hunter Ren. Shoot, I should have known that one. Diggs is a good one too. So all right, I got the easy one, I guess, knowing Tyreek Hill, but because that was obvious.
So what we've learned from this is that if anybody is drafted in the 7th round, don't draft them in your rookie, right?
Yeah.
Or even in the 4th. So any one of the top 50 was a 4th round pick in the draft. Yeah. So the sweet spot is, well, the 1st and the 2nd, obviously, without a doubt. And I think that's just because I think you get a lot more opportunities as a wide receiver. Mate, we see wide receivers in the league for 10 years, and it's just like, mate, how do you just go from team to team? And if you're a running back, you'd be gone after halfway through your rookie. They go, no, this guy's no good.
Mm-hmm.
For some, mate, why just make one great catch or do something?
You're in.
I'll bring it out of him.
Was it was the 4th round wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown? Was it him?
Highest 4th round guy
or the one guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just testing my own draft memory at this point, but I think the interesting thing that jumped out to me, and obviously, like you guys at home could go even further back and things, but the thing that jumps out to me is that the first and second round result, like the amount of receivers from the first and second were that close. I would have kind of expected like a little bit more of an edge to first round. I mean, I think enough receivers go in the first round. It's not like running backs, right? Where it's like, oh yeah, there was only 2 because there's not any drafted there, right? But for receivers, there's plenty of guys that are still drafted in the first round. Obviously, there are a lot in the second as well. But for that to be fairly even last year, I think that second round draft capital is still pretty strong. You want to see that. We saw that last year with plenty of guys. You never want to think of the Denzel Mims of the world, but there's still really good options there in round 2. In the NFL
and
draft.
even round 3, like 5 of the top 16 wide receivers were third round picks. So we got Godwin, Lockett, Keenan Allen, Deontay Johnson, Cooper Kupp.
Yep.
So
Godwin was a third rounder. Holy crap! I thought it was a second rounder, dude. Man, somebody they were thieving there. That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Nuts.
That's awesome.
Nuts. But I don't think people weren't talking Cooper. Isn't it amazing? People weren't talking about, and this is what I find funny about Twitter is that everybody's coming out now and letting you know about how good they were at picking these guys. Telling you a lot, mate. It's just there's a lot of narcissists using Twitter.
Yeah,
I
think before we move on to tight ends real quick, Mike in the chat said, do any year 3 receivers get moved? So draft day trades, like I know Rager has been tossed around a bit as a name that maybe Philly's just bailing on. I think that we always see like 1 or 2 trades, it feels like, for some of these fringe roster guys or teams, wanting to just move on. So that is another thing to consider, when we're talking about, some of these shifts. If Philly adds a receiver now to that group, I don't love it because, one, I don't think there's enough passes to go around, but it's kind of like it's starting to feel a little full when your quarterback's name's Jalen Hurts. But if they trade Rager and add a guy, maybe it's a little bit more interesting. But I think those draft day trades are going to be interesting. I can't think of anybody else off the top of my head that could get moved. I know N'Keal Harry's been on the trade block for like 7 years, and no one wants him. So
mate, what about like there was talk about like a Tyler Lockett or like DK? I don't know about DK. Like, why would you get rid of DK for what? What are you going to get that's going to make your team better?
If Seattle's sitting there looking like, they want the Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams deals. Plus probably because DK's got some years on them. So it would be great to see Lockett moved. I know he's not a 30 receiver we're talking about. I think that if they could let him be free, that would be awesome.
and like, how old's Lockett? He's probably only.
I think he's 29.
Young.
I think he's 29.
Is he that old? But he's one of those guys. I don't think that age will not weary them, is the saying that we have here for our Anzacs, which was the other day. He's one of those guys that he'll play well into his, like 32.
Yeah, he'll be 30 in September.
He hasn't lost anything.
Yeah, he's been great. I wish that he'd get an opportunity somewhere else.
Yeah,
we'll find out. But all right, do you got tight end numbers, or we're getting in on the Aussie time here as far as how long your guys' show always is. So I'm
running an hour. We're not even up to. We had Matt Waldman on an hour 45. We kept him for.
I forgot to mention. I was going to mention that at the top, and I got distracted by stinking Mad Max questions. But if you guys didn't check out the Aussie Guys podcast, AJ fired up the old computer machine and posted it as a podcast too. So if you check out Aussie Guys NFL. Or on YouTube, you can find it. But the Matt Waldman show with AJ and G was a good listen. I watched the first part of it, and on my big screen TV downstairs, we were talking TVs off air before. I watched you guys on the big screen, and it was pretty funny because
I might have been if I'm on your big screen.
There was a dog. I don't know if this ever happened before, but I saw a dog hop up on the couch.
AJ's dog.
Next to you.
If I don't pat it and it sits next to me on the couch, the thing won't shut up. So I just rub its belly. And it's happy as Larry, mate. Just you got to do what you got to do.
But you were a true professional. You did not lose concentration. You're like you just letting Waldman have it, right? You bring in the hard questions.
He was fantastic. Like we got to where we are now, and I said, "Look, I've got 6 guys here that you pick which one you want to talk about, Matt." And he goes, "Let's talk about all 6."
Yeah.
So that's just what he does.
Awesome.
I think he appreciates that. Like I looked at like 45 wide receivers. Mm-hmm. And I was told yesterday by Memphis I probably looked at 25 too many. But He might be right, but I enjoy doing it, and you're always looking for that guy that everybody's missing. But anyway, we should talk about wide receivers with the question you had before, landing spots.
Yep.
As well. So as far as wide receivers go, in the reality part of it, man, I'd like to see someone like Traylon Burks land in Dallas. You know, you have the CD Lamb. You got guys that work. CD Lamb can work pretty much wherever he wants. But you've got the intermediate to short, all sort of covered. He's a big physical guy. You know, people say can't get off prep. Mate, I saw him plenty of times do everything you need a wide receiver to do, and I don't care that he ran. What did he run? 4.6 something.
Yeah, 4.6. Yeah.
I couldn't give a shit. Mate. You go and watch him play, and he's running away from guys, on tape. You go.
He's a big receiver. It's like, and I know some of these guys.
He's a beast, mate.
You put in and some of these bigger guys are still putting up great 40 times, but it's kind of like, I think he's definitely fallen. Like I've seen him now dropping out of like that tier. Like now it's been like just the 4 guys kind of consensus in that top tier. He's been like bounced, and like, before the combine, Burks was 101 for a lot of people at the receiver position. So
he's my number 2.
It'd be interesting. Yeah. I would love to see him in Dallas just because I think that he would fit well into what they need, like you said. And for my own selfish reasons, I would love for them to that would kind of force them like, all right, play CD a little bit more inside.
Yep.
And I think he fit anywhere, but I'd love to see him inside a little bit more. And that if they went and got somebody else, that was more of an inside receiver specialist, then that forces CD to go outside. So,
but you see, you'd have interchangeable guys. You can play Burks, run in the inside, and just get yards after the catch, and just let him go. He'll mow people down, and you can swap him. You'd have so many different concepts you could use if you had someone like that. But I have seen fantasy wise, and this guy, he's my mate. I'm the only person that's got him at number 1 because I sort of, for fantasy wise, I like to project that what he might become, and I'd rather, and I'm going to get him lower down in fantasy drafts and hope that he becomes, because every year that he's played football, he's gotten a bit bigger, he's gotten quicker, he's understood the game more, he's just got better at all the little increments every year than someone who's been exactly the same. He's good, but he's been the same player in college for the last 3 years. Maybe he can't go any further, and you hope that translates now to the NFL, but sometimes it doesn't, But Christian Watson, he's my number 1 receiver because I just think this guy can learn so much more and become such a better receiver. But, mate, I had him down at the Cowboys too on the outside, and I have seen him mock to the Cowboys in the second round, which would be good, just because of speed. Like, 4.38? I think one of his times he clocked like 4.2 something, and then they work an aggregate, however it works. But the dude's quick. He's like 6'4", 204 pounds. What is he, 200 something pounds? He can carry another 10 pounds on his frame and still be quick. He's gotten quicker as a receiver. He wasn't even, I think he was like, when he came out of high school, he's 501.
Wow.
Wow. And now he's being talked about he could go in the first round.
I saw him, it was Thor Nystrom's mock draft. That was where I saw I think it was that Tennessee had mocked there, but I saw that he gave him he gave your boy to Kansas City in the first round.
That's my number 1 spot for him to land at.
If that happens, you sure as hell ain't getting him late, because he will skyrocket upward. I bet you. I mean, because there are some teams in the early part of that draft, like the Jets draft if they draft a receiver, that guy's going to drop, down boards. If your guy goes to Kansas City, he could legit be the 101 in rookie draft ADP. Like that could happen, So I've seen him in Green Bay there too.
I had him at number 1 like 3 months ago, and I just told a group of friends that I've just guys that we play fantasy with. I'm not into putting that up on Twitter and say, hey, this is my top 5. I don't. It's just not what I do. But he's been my number 1, and I don't think anybody else has him at number one. So
no, I think it's going to be. You've definitely been talking. I know you in one of our chats. You put that out there months ago that this was your guy, and so we want to make. I'm glad that made the show for one.
The wheels are
I'm
rolling.
hoping
The wheels are rolling.
I'm hoping he lands.
Yeah. So they're the two. So tight ends. Yep. What have we got for tight ends? Sorry, mate. Let's keep this ball moving. I've got to find all my pieces of paper. Bloody hell! What do we got? We got QBs. Jesus hell! I've got tight ends.
Hey man, you still did more research than I did for this but I appreciate it.
Okay, tight ends. Okay, so I looked at 18. That's probably 18 too. No,
18 too many. Yep, damn 13,
right. 13 too many.
Yeah.
Okay, so as far as tight ends go, well, we know we're not going to have too many in the first round because no one really takes tight ends. It happens.
Unless you're the Lions. Yep.
But but Kyle Pitts is he'd be the number one wide receiver probably in this class if he came out. We had 3 in the first round. We had 6 in the second, 4 in the third, 2 in the fourth. Sorry about that. Let it ring. It's probably my boss saying where the
probably get your ass in here.
5 in the second. I don't even know where my phone is. Don't know who that is.
It's under all the paper.
It's a private number. It's probably the girlfriend. Oh. And 1 in the 6th. So second, third round is where they go mainly. So so what did we have? Who's the jeepers? Who's the highest tight end? He was taken in the 5th round.
Highest tight end that was taken in the 5th round last year. Shoot! No, he wasn't that late, was he?
Yeah, he was.
Was it?
He's going bald. He's going bald. Very thin hair.
Going bald.
I think he's gonna go bald. He's got really thin.
Going hair. Bald. Oh man, now you got me.
He's not going bald, but he's really thin.
Was it Kelsey?
No.
George Kittle. It's Kittle. Oh, he was a 5th rounder.
He was a 5th round pick.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts.
That's crazy. I know a lot of those guys at the top, we're not all high end ads, but or draft picks. But yeah, okay. Kittle in the 5th. All right, gotcha.
All right, you had a couple of other questions for me.
Yeah. So we already went. So I'll just go through these if we got them over. If you have more to add, that's fine. But as we're looking ahead to this weekend's draft, player that interests you the most in the class, so whatever position, however you want to take this, but the player that interests you the most, who is that for you in this?
Well, we already
spoke.
Spoke about him, and that's my
okay.
Yeah, Christian Watson's probably the guy that interested me, mate, because he's interested me since I watched him, just thinking what he can be. But
yeah,
mate, there's a few other guys I really like. I put them down as wild card guys, like Taquan Thornton, who ran the quickest but he's just not a fast guy. But unfortunately, speed at the combine means you're not going to do much.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, unfortunately,
it's like a death nail, isn't it? Really? Mm-hmm. Guys like that, but probably more so the running back position. That guys that aren't being spoke about that interests me is someone. I think Zamir White's sort of been brought up a little bit, but at the moment, or the talks about like his running partner in Cook, who he shared the backfield with. Like, is Cook good? Yeah, I like Cook, but he reminds me very much of who's the guy that the Steelers picked up last year. He's got speed. I can't remember his name now. I should have looked it up.
Running back?
Yeah, running back.
Oh,
they picked him up last year. It was a later round pick, and he was quick, but he takes it to the corner a lot. But I really like Zamir White. I just everything about him. He didn't. Unfortunately, you don't get to see him a lot, so the numbers aren't big if you're into analytics because he's sharing a backfield,
right?
But I think someone he could. And there was one more guy, and you'd think that with all these pieces of paper here that I would have had it ready to go. Sorry, mate. I should have. I did have it. Someone that we could. Like someone like Spiller, Isaiah Spiller.
See, that was the name that I had on my list because I think that's going to be a difference maker there. He's still the 3 in a lot of places that
he's
I'm
my
that
third.
I'm seeing,
Yeah,
right. But he's the clear third. But when this whole process started, it was he was the clear third. It was still close enough to Hall and Walker, and now it feels like he's dropped back into the pack because he ran a 4.340 at his pro day.
Yeah, but I think he, outside of the first 2, that's when you start to. He's the third guy, but he becomes landing spot dependent. Do you know what I mean? And that's where now we've stepped down to the next level of guys. Where the first 2, I think, with the talent that they've got, I watched the first 2 guys I watched, and I just said, mate, just.
Yeah.
I sent our mate Jerry, because he's a Spartan,
Yep.
Walker, I just sent him a picture of a hooker going, "Me love you long time," as a gift I sent him, it's just, and take away the pass catching stuff, he doesn't do it. But if you look at Breece Hall, I think he caught like 80 odd passes in, and most of them were just like the quick dumps off from the quarterback. But when you actually see these guys actually catch the football, like downfield, they have great hand position. They know how to catch the football. It's not like a lot of guys just put it into my body, and if it doesn't hit in this area, outside my zone where these guys are. The other running back that I'm really keen about is Kennedy Brooks out of Oklahoma, 5'11", 209. I don't know why more people aren't talking about him. I think for the fact that he's the most patient guy behind the back of the line I see in this class. But it's not patience like I'm waiting for a big hole to open up. He's never stops moving. It's actually, if you go back and have a look, you won't see it in the highlights. You have to watch the game film, obviously. But just the way he moves across the line, it's just he flows across this waiting. And as soon as anything opens up, and he's very good at picking which way his blockers are going to block and which way the defenders are coming in, the angles and all that, and what lanes to pick. The only problem he lacks that true burst. Like, he can get through the hole, but there are times where the hole's there, and if he had that burst, he'd be into the secondary before you knew it. But because he doesn't have that burst, the hole can close right at the end. It's like watching, any Star Wars movie in the Flying the Millennium Falcon, and things are closing and it's like the Millennium Falcon. No, you don't make it. Sorry, dude. It doesn't happen. That's the end of the Millennium Falcon and Han Solo. But I really like him as someone to watch where he lands. If he got behind a good offensive line, he could be really good, because he's got everything working for him, except he doesn't have that real bang. He has enough, but just he's probably one step short, if you know what I mean, of being to pop off a lot more. So
gotcha. Yeah, that's a name, honestly, and as somebody that's cramming for the exam, I've been listening to a ton of draft content as much as I can get my hands on the last few weeks. It just is what it is. I just haven't had the time this year, and it's not my area of expertise. That's a name I haven't heard much of, but 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons, opted out in 2020, so he's a little bit older, but and playing in Oklahoma, you expect numbers. But that's an interesting name. We'll see if he makes his way even in round 4. Wouldn't be maybe that's he gets enough draft capital too to add on to that sleeper appeal. So that'd be interesting. But
go and have a look at the Texas game. Just watch the whole game, like the whole offense. You go and watch it. Don't just look at the highlights of him. Go and watch that game, mate. He destroys Texas, destroys. And I thought, man, this guy's got burst. He's got everything. But then I watched a couple of other games, and I've spoken with this when I speak with Matt Waldman about, it's going to sound funny, but camera angles at the ground can be really deceptive about how well a guy actually moves.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Even the uniforms can make guys look different. And it sounds ridiculous, but I think the camera angle made him look a lot faster than he was, because when you sort of raise the camera and look down, he doesn't look as explosive as it might just be me and my the way my brain works. But if you go look at the Texas game, you go, oh my God, how's no one talking about this guy? Then you go watch a bit more footage. You go, okay, I can see to see a few more flaws in why. Yeah,
cool.
But there's a couple of people for you anyway, mate. So
interesting stuff. I know you touched on a lot of these throughout. The last thing I had to hear just from my from these questions that got sprinkled through here. Perfect landing spot, perfect player team. I picked 2 that I thought could potentially happen. So, and I want your thoughts on these guys, I guess, or if I'm nuts. I am not a Bears fan, but I live in Chicago, obviously. So or area. So like I had to just sit here and watch this team do nothing in free agency. They have no first round pick. They have picks 39 and 48 in this draft. So I'm hoping for Jahan Dotson at pick 39 and apparently the head case George Pickens at 48. I want both those guys to go to the Bears and give Justin Fields some freaking weapons. Am I nuts? Are these guys, if these guys are second rounders? I tried to pick players I thought would reasonably be available at those slots for the Bears and their stupid lack of first round draft capital. So any thoughts on those 2 guys?
Jahan Dotson's, man. I think in his whole he dropped 2 balls.
Yeah,
the
hands are.
Oh man, I actually just had a look at the highlights because I've written him up. He'd be here somewhere actually. I've got running backs here in front of me. When I went back and had a look at his highlights, I'm just watching it, mate. Even in the snow, he's like he's got better hands than some. There's a lot of guys in this class that will be higher and don't have as good a hands. Mm-hmm. And I think, mate, you're a wide receiver, isn't you know, you can routes and whatnot, but man, to me, that's your bread and butter. Mm-hmm. And this dude's got beautiful, beautiful hands. Yeah. So I think that's great. Pickens is just outside my 5. Mm-hmm. But then Chris Olave is outside my 5 as well.
Yeah, well, you got to make room. You know,
you got to make room.
There's only so many spots. Pickens almost was almost the players that interested me the most, only because the reports like this week that came out, there was an Athletic article that like they talked, it was like to a bunch of wide receiver coaches. They didn't name names in there, but like, and they talked about these players and Pickens, they were like, this kid I wouldn't want him on my team. He's a disaster. And I was just like, you know, obviously he's talented as hell, but if he's not all up top, you know, then. Yeah,
he does. When you watch his games, mm-hmm. There's just, man, this guy, is he just a bit nuts?
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And he won't last because the amount of flags going to get thrown for taunting.
Yeah, I mean, welcome to the NFL.
In college football, do they care about taunting in college football?
Not as much as the pros, apparently.
No, man, the amount of times he stands over people.
Yeah,
you know, it's just like, I mean, you got to get rid of that out of your game.
Yeah, it's he'll learn one way or the other, I guess. So
yeah.
Any parting thoughts for you? I don't want to leave anything left here on the table. So you got anything else?
No, look, I'm just really interested in finding what the NFL. Because I look at the wide receivers basically is where I spend most of my time. Is mm-hmm. how do they view them to how I view them? That's just from a personal point of view. Mm-hmm. And then outside of that is the guys that are further. I get more interest out of these guys that I like that probably won't be in the first 3 rounds. Mm-hmm. Yeah, where do they land? What round do they go in? In what order do they go in compared to sort of where I have them? I have a top 5, and then after that, it's mate. How do you juggle these guys into into 15, 16? Like how the hell do you know? Like my top 5 at the moment is Christian Watson, Traylon Burks, Jamison,
mm-hmm. Williams.
Who's number 1 on everybody's list?
Garrett Wilson.
4, and who was my 5th? Jesus.
Drake London.
Thank you. Yeah. So, they're my 5, and then Olave sort of 6th. And then then you're looking at the Jahan Dotson, Sky Moores, Pickett. You look at all those guys, and I don't know. They're just a bunch. I got these 5, and then there's a bunch of guys, and then there's a bunch of guys, and that's how I just just how I do it.
Yeah, I think that would be that is the one thing that would be intriguing. You kind of get to see pretty quick what and I mean, hell, we call them professionals, I guess, but like these NFL teams, how they value these players based off of where they're taken, right? But then, I mean, even those guys that have all these scouts on these on payroll and all that, I mean, what is the hit percentage on these guys? It's not a perfect science by any means.
What's the first round? 50-50, and then it just drops away every round after that, doesn't it? So, which is obviously because, the guys in the first round are obviously the best, and it's always going to be a bigger drop because these guys become more suspect. The less rounds that they go, but
and you draft guys like Tutu Atwell in round 2, and then that just really drives that down.
Brandon Ayuk, I didn't like Brandon Ayuk coming out, and he went in the first round. Thinking, well, what am I doing wrong? And at the moment, I'm not looking too bad.
He had that 3 or 4 games and tricked everybody.
Yeah. You're only as good as your last. You're only as good as your last game, they say. So my top 5 from last year is looking good. That my top 5 from last year. So I'll just roll with that. That I know. Not that I know what I'm doing, but my guesses are good. My guesses are good. Roulette, black or red, 50-50 chance.
Enough to be dangerous. I like it. So good stuff, man. Well, we'll put a bow on this thing. Hopefully everybody was able to enjoy this one. Good luck to your Falcons there, picking early.
Can we just take offensive lineman or the best corner, or even a safety like Kyle Hamilton, someone. Let's not worry about our offense for, in the skill position. Yeah, let's worry. People have been scoring 36 on us for 10 years. Even when we went to the Super Bowl, the only reason, team we were scoring 46 and they were scoring 30. That's the only reason we made it, mate, because we could outscore them, not because our defense was good.
Yeah.
Can we have a defense?
Let's sometimes it's just with a first round pick. I know I felt this way. Just don't screw it up. Just get a guy. He's going to be a starter for you, going to be good. And then you got those second round picks. You can get some skill position players there. Yeah. No big deal. So I like it, man. All right. Well, appreciate you guys listening. I'll be back next week. Obviously, a lot of rookie talk, dynasty wise. I'll be taking a look at some instant reactions as far as these players' value for 2022. So the next few weeks, looking forward to doing that. Going to be doing some mock drafts too, updated rankings, post NFL draft, taking a look at 2022 rankings. So make sure you're subscribed. That way you get the rookie rundown, Warzone, War Games. All those guys are going to be covering a ton of the rookie content here, as dynasty rookie drafts will be hot and heavy here this time next week. I know I already have like 4 or 5 for next week. It's going to be nuts. And May is going to be a lot of fun. So, G, once again, appreciate it, man. Thanks for sneaking away from work for a little bit and joining me.
This better be a bloody good coffee I'm bringing back.
No doubt. All right, guys. We'll catch you next week. We'll see you.